Hello and welcome to the live YBMB show. Monday is Body Day, and as you know, I talk about bodies on Monday, Mindset Wednesday, and business on Friday. And I wanted to talk today about fasting because if you've listened to a number of my shows, and many of you have, so thank you for that. But you know that I'm a big advocate of eating, whole foods, healthy foods, but a wide array of foods, drinking a lot of water, exercising, good levels of sleep, monitoring sleep, and all of that. So all of these basics really do make a difference. But I occasionally get asked about, well, quite frequently actually get asked about fasting, intermittent fasting. What do I think of it? And to be honest with you, I've often said that I think it's gimmicky, and in the end, it boils down to, if you want to sort of lose weight, achieving a calorie deficit. And you can tell sort of historically when you look back that that's what every single diet and way of eating is designed for. But if you want to be healthy, then, that's a whole different way of sort of looking at intermittent fasting. Does it help you to be more healthy or not? So I want to talk a little bit to you about that today, about the benefits of fasting. So I suppose let's start with that point. Before we sort of even define what intermittent fasting is. I think we all know that it means sort of not eating for periods of time, going without food for periods of time. And, as I say, it's sort of no big deal. Lots of people have skipped breakfast and things like that, and they don't call it intermittent fasting. The fitness world in particular, I know, have taken the mickey quite a bit out of intermittent fasting. Many of them are very focused on building a physique, having a good looking, strong physique, being able to lift a lot of weight. And so what they tend to advocate is to eat clean, yes, but to, spread your meals out evenly over 5 meals and things like that. That doesn't give you a lot of opportunity for fasting at all. And so it does boil down to one of these considerations is what you're actually trying to achieve. Because if you're trying to achieve build a body, then to be underfed, as it were, to be in a calorie deficit, is going to be quite difficult to build that physique. So there's lots of conflicts around it. But to try and sort of make sense of that, the first thing is that, with regard to what actually intermittent fasting is, it needn't be being in a calorie deficit. It could just be that you're still eating at maintenance calories, or indeed you're eating in a surplus, so you can still build a body, but you are eating within a very specific time frame, within a window. So that's really what intermittent fasting is. And it means the rest of the time you're sort of going without, you're just basically not eating any food, you're drinking water. I'm going to delve into a little bit because there are some things that you can eat and still not break the fast, as it were. But this whole concept of going without food, I mean, people do it, go without alcohol, if we're going to have, if people are going to give up alcohol, for example, we go without thinking, if we're trying to calm the mind and meditate. So the whole concept of going without is not a new one, but this idea of going without food is quite a new one in our current society, where it's become very normal to have 3 meals a day. And obviously the availability of food is very different to how when we were, back in sort of our caveman days. So we have been sort of institutionalized into having 3 lots of food and to eat a vast array of sort of sweet foods, which the body was never properly designed to eat. And so that's why I think fasting has probably come back on the radar. It was probably something when we were cavemen that happened ordinarily. It's the way that we were actually meant to eat. But now in this current day and age, we would have to actually focus quite carefully on it to make it happen. So if we talk about, why do it, first of all, what the benefits are. And I've tried to be, I'm by no means an expert in this area, but I've read around it a bit and spoken to people as well. And the first one, I suppose, is that with the way that we, as I say, are institutionalized to eat 3 meals a day, if we are into fitness, to even eat 5 meals a day, and, eat lots of it as well. And then combined with the availability of sweet foods, years ago, maybe we would have managed to get some honey, but that would have been about it. But now we can have sweet food all the time. And so the body, therefore, is put under a lot more pressure with the current lifestyle, with the current diet, than it ever was meant to be. If you imagine, you're piling in all of these high energy, calories that's going into the body, and the body is having to work so hard to digest all of this. And eventually, if we're not careful, the balance gets tipped, the body wears out in terms of its ability to burn carbohydrates, to cope with all the sugars that are coming in. And that's when you start to become insulin resistant, and that's when you're in danger of sort of diabetes and things like that. So that's the first thing, is that we don't want our body is only capable of doing so much. This is our one and only vehicle, as I always say. And so that's one reason maybe to be considering fasting, because we don't want to overwhelm our body. So that's the first thing. The second thing is something that's been spoken about a lot more now, is that when the body is not digesting, it's doing this other thing called autophagy, which is basically cleaning up the body. And what it's doing is it's getting rid of all the bad cells and all sorts of other great biological functions. But in a nutshell, it's cleaning up the body and making our body stronger, and resetting it, as it were. Now, if you don't give it enough time to do that, and apparently that whole process can only start 4 hours after you've sort of finished eating, and carries on for up to 16 hours. So, and it's at its best the longer it goes on, that whole cleaning up mechanism. And so, if you can give yourself up to 16 hours in between eating, this process of autophagy can really do its great work. And that in turn is going to have all sorts of benefits on keeping the body strong, resilient and tip-top condition. The third thing is gut health as well. I suppose it goes hand in hand with, if you're going to give your digestive system a rest, then your gut can sort of clean itself up, and be ready for sort of its next work. It's like anything really, we don't want to overwork these things, even if we can. And the benefit of that is that, well, it's numerous, but the first thing is that this process of autophagy and the cleaning up of the gut, it keeps us in tip-top condition. It enables us to build more things like stem cells, and that in turn makes us, it prevents aging. It stops the sort of the oxidization effect. And people say that, I've seen it myself with my clients, and I've obviously seen it with myself, is that this whole sort of fitness regime that we go through, or this transformation that we go through, and people always say, wow, you look younger. But so much of that is not to do just with losing weight and exercising, but it is to do with the fact that, automatically what you're doing is you're restricting your eating, you're reducing the sugars that go inside your body. And all of that means that, these processes are taken, even if you're not rigid with intermittent fasting, you're getting more of these benefits in your body. Another benefit of all of this is that you get less inflammation in the body. And if you listened to my show a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, could have been last week, I lose count. But I talked to you about the connection between the prefrontal cortex, the front of the brain, that is the logical part of the brain, that enables you to sort of sit down and really implement tasks and follow them through and be super productive. Well, the connection between that part of the brain and the amygdala, which is the impulsive part, which doesn't want to finish things and is not able to sort of sit still and focus. Inflammation can impact that connection. It can reduce that connection. You can get this disconnection. And so I was talking about inflammation before. So intermittent fasting, if it can help us to reduce inflammation, that's great news for our body, but also for our mind as well, and our productivity. The other thing is that we can sleep better. I mean, if you've experienced eating very sort of late, especially if you drink alcohol as well, late at night, then your heart rate is raised during the night, your temperature goes up, you have fitful sleep, you wake up in the night, it might feel that you zonk out, but then you don't have really great quality sleep all the way through. And again, sleep is really good for this process of autophagy in the body. So those are some of the benefits. There's many others as well if you wanted to go sort of more deeply into the biology, but I'll leave you to sort of read up on that if you want to. So if we accept that it is good to actually do this intermittent fasting, how can we do it and still build it into our everyday life and still achieve our fitness goals? Because if you've gone to great trouble of building a good physique, having some muscle, and wanting to sort of continue to get stronger, obviously you can't really be in an underfed state, or can you? I mean, that's really the question. So let's explore that here. Well, there are different ways of doing it. The first is this 16-8 method that they talk about, where you actually only eat in an 8-hour window, and that's sort of probably quite easy to do if you get up even if you get up early. like I do. And then you can have coffee, but you can have bulletproof coffee. So you can take black coffee, you can put MCT oil in, which is, I won't sort of talk about that now, but it's got so many health benefits. You can put ghee in, and then you can drink that quite happily. And that's going to give you a feeling of having sort of a latte. It's going to do really great things for your body, these oils are, and yet you won't break the fast, so you will continue to fast. Now, I actually do put protein in my coffee in the mornings, and so that would break the fast. But if you are wanting to continue this fast, so bearing in mind maybe you didn't eat until the night before, maybe let's say sort of 7 o'clock, and you're getting up at 7 o'clock, and then you have this coffee with the oils in, and you carry on until midday, then you've done your 16 hours of fasting, and now you can eat until sort of 7, 8 o'clock that night, quite happily, knowing that you're doing the intermittent fasting. So that's a really manageable way of doing it, I think. Another one that they talk about is, they call it Omad One Meal a Day. I think that is like the step 2, where you're just going to eat in a 2-hour window, and you have all your calories from what you can manage to eat anyway in that 2-hour window. Now, I think that is quite extreme. That's only my personal opinion. I mean, I'm trying to eat sort of 1,800, 1,900 calories a day. To be able to do that and eat it from clean foods, sort of organic meats, fish, vegetables, you have to eat quite a lot to get that many calories. And to do all that in one go, I think I'd probably struggle with that. But, even if you could reduce the window a bit from 8 hours down to 6 or 4, something like that. So that's one way of doing it. They call it Omad. And then there's the other, even more extreme, which is 36 hours plus. So I haven't done that, but I've done juicing, actually. I've done juicing over a 3-day period, so 72 hours, and I found it extremely unpleasant, and I didn't feel great after it. But that's just me. You can try that as well. And you can still have your oil, like I said, so that won't break the fast. I think that's very, very helpful. So there's some ways to do it. And I think probably the easiest way, there's the 5-2 actually as well, isn't there? There's the, you can eat normally for 5 days, then you have a very restricted intake for 2 days. So there's other ways to do it as well. And I suppose that brings me on to the next point, which is what the science is showing is that the key to all of this is to not do everything consistently every single day. So, again, if we go back to the fitness world of how to build a physique, one of the bits of advice is, look, set up a menu for yourself every single day, put it in MyFitnessPal, and just go and implement, just go and execute, and that's how you change your body, which is fair enough when you've got a particular goal to change your body. But long term, not if we're believing what the science is saying now, which, is evidenced about, doing intermittent fasting is a good thing, then it is good to change it up. And the more you can change it up, the more your cells are going to be ready for everything. They're going to be stronger, more resilient, more adaptable. And that's what we want in our body, isn't it? So maybe, you might try the 16-8 window, then you might go to Omad, then you may, just have a few days where you're just eating all day, normally 3 meals a day or whatever. And then you might go for a 36-day fast. I don't know. But over the period of the week, you could still be making sure that you consumed the weekly calories that you wanted to consume, so that you can either stay at maintenance or you can build your body. And obviously, if you're wanting to get into a deficit and you're wanting to lose some body fat, then again, you can still implement intermittent fasting, but it would be a way of helping you to do that as well, by giving you a lesser, a more restricted window in which to eat. So, I think, from me, from what I've read, and, my understanding now of energy in, energy out, but the importance as well of keeping your cells robust and strong, and, the role that has in longevity, I would conclude that intermittent fasting of some sort is a good thing. I wouldn't say that you have to do it the same thing every day or the same thing every week, but to change it around and to be, a couple of the pieces of advice that I've received is, number one, to not eat after it gets dark. So unless it's a special occasion, you're out at a restaurant, which obviously we can be from today, then to not eat after dark. So have your last meal before, because that means probably likelihood is that you're going to at least give yourselves a 12-hour window. And then this other thing of having the coffee in the morning with oils in, which won't break the fast, but leaving your actual food, your proteins and your carbs until lunchtime, that seems to me like a real doable thing to do. So that's how you could start, and see if you feel the benefits after a few weeks of doing that, and still maintain your calorie intake from clean food, so you're getting all the vitamins and minerals, etc. that obviously we really need. Just one final thing is, since we're talking about fasting, and like I said to you, it applies to many things, doesn't it? It applies to all sorts of things like alcohol and thinking, but I think it's important to apply it as well to negativity. So fasting on negativity, negative thoughts, negative language, and negative news. So by all means, I very strongly recommend that you do that. I think that sometimes something happens in the news and I don't even know about it, but we always find out the things that we need to know, and we can always find out if we want to go and actively look. But scrolling mindlessly through media, through social media, through news, just filling our brains with bad news, I certainly think that's something that we can fast on as well. So with that, I will leave the show for today. Hope I've given you some things to experiment with, and that's my take on fasting, and I will see you on Wednesday.